Okay, so here's a big realization for me that I've realized. Um, Above all is mine, and um, above all, things are about mental concentration. And what I learned in the up and down of life is whenever I go from something to nothing, it's because I was distracted. Whenever I went from something to Whenever I went from nothing to something, I was focused. Let me repeat that again. Whenever I went from nothing, Whenever I went from something to nothing, I was distracted. Meaning, whatever I had to having, let's say material money or a great amount of momentum or whatever, it was because if I went from material things and having momentum to having nothing and being, let's say, not having any money or burning out my resources or whatever, I was distracted. If I went from, let's say, not having any money to having money, it was because I was focused. It wasn't because I was highly disciplined, even though discipline is a part of it. It wasn't because I had more resources, because that's important, but that's not a major thing. Um, and I guess in the words of Bob Proctor, he would say it's your willpower, right? It wasn't because um, I had more God power than somebody else. It wasn't because I had more mentors. Um, it wasn't because any external resources at all. It was strictly because I was more focused than the next person, my situation gave me. I was so focused, or like when I went from homeless to home, the second time, when I got out by myself, it wasn't because um, it wasn't because I had more resources. It wasn't because I had all these esoteric powers. It wasn't because I was connected to the Most High. Um, it wasn't because I had more money. It wasn't because I had more friendships. And that's the crazy part. I came down here. I came on down here on the strength of relationship or friendship, and when because this was the only person that was a real person of relation down here. It wasn't because of that. It was because I was mentally focused. And I went to the gym. I was visualizing. I was speaking my affirmations. I was putting in the work every single day, despite my circumstances. And in before my phone bill, or I was even, yeah, I could say that. And 27 days in, I had a place to live. And now that I have my place to live, I'm really starting to think to myself, what is the connection between success and failure? It's mental concentration. That's it. It's not discipline, because without mental concentration, discipline means nothing. Um, and sometimes you need to focus on the small because it's what you can. Oh, come on. You need to focus on the small because it's all that can grab your attention. Sometimes the big picture is too much to hold your attention. Let me repeat that again. Sometimes you need to focus on the small because um, you need to focus on the small because the big picture is too much. It you can't you can't your attention span is too weak for that. But what can hold your attention is doing the little stuff every single day. And that's more important than and they even say what I'm doing right now, grounding yourself, and this is why I do it so much. It increases your mental concentration. Your mental concentration is in your root chakra, believe it or not, from what I've seen on Google. And I actually tend to believe that because when you're more grounded, you're more focused. And trust me, I've seen this with people, no cap. People who are not grounded are heavily distracted. People who are not grounded are heavily forgetful. People who are not grounded are always in fucking la la land. Like, they don't put two and two together. Like, when I say they're not logical, they're not logical. People who are not grounded are always like, their their conversation is, bluntly speaking, it's a whole bunch of bullshit. Like, you like it. And again, just because you disagree with somebody doesn't always mean that person is wrong. And that's what I've learned in understanding logic and studying conversation. Just because you disagree doesn't mean that their logic doesn't make sense. It's just that you don't agree with their logic. And it could really be two sides of the coin. It's just that you don't agree with their side of the logic. Does that make sense? So because you don't agree, but when you're grounded, you can. This is why a lot of women make me upset, because, or they're bothersome to me, because a lot of women that I be observing, especially online and their responses to different things, they have very much ungrounded answers. And here's what that means: it's not rooted in anything that makes fucking sense. And what I mean by that, meaning, when you're grounded, you really are trying to make sense. And not just for you, but for a person. If you were to give it to them, they can do something with that, even if they don't agree. Because you don't have to agree with somebody to move with them. You don't have to agree with somebody to build with them. I feel like, especially with our women, it's like they have to agree with you all through and through. They have to agree with everything you say or do or think or feel, especially when it comes to opposite sex relationships, for you to build with them. And it's stupid. When you're grounded, you can build with your enemy if needed. That sounds a little crazy, but when you understand psychology on a deeper level, and when you look at even white people, they'll build with each other even if they're mortal enemies, because they're so rooted and grounded that they're not in their emotions of what they're not in their emotions of what they feel about you. So you tend to realize a person who, especially when you're listening to conversation, if a person is always telling you how they feel, they're not grounded. That's what I learned about people a lot. When somebody always says, I feel this and I feel that, they're not grounded. Because a person who's grounded is not telling you always how they feel. Because how you feel is not always right. It doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always apply because of how you feel. So, but anyway, enough of that tiny rant. But what I've learned about success and failure is that it's due to mental concentration. Like, I'll give you an example. I had somebody call me today, and she was like, when I feel like one area of my life is up and one area of my life is down, it's like when one area of my life is going up and one area is going down. No, see me. When I feel like when one area of my life is going up, one area is going down. And I told her, because I'm more grounded, I realized that especially this is a common practice when you're grounded. You'll realize the similarities of life. What you do in one area is very similar what you'll do in the next. It sounds crazy in the beginning, but like, I'll give you an example. If you can't, and your parents be in this rant, in this example, they are correct. When parents tell you, if you can't clean your room, like my mom used to say this, if you can't clean your room, how are you gonna clean a business? I now understand that from a more grounded, well, I always understood it, but now I emotionally understand it from a grounded perspective of it's the principle applies everywhere. If you're not organized here, how are you going to organize certain systems in your business? Or you're not going to value organization because you don't value organization in your room. Now, does that mean you're going to apply you cleaning your room everywhere? No. But because you have an ingrained habit of of organizing your room, let's say, when you go out into the world, you're gonna feel out of place if you're messy. So, but when you're grounded, you know that similarity. When you're grounded, you really tend to understand, like what I said earlier, if when you're going down, usually you're distracted by a whole lot of things that take you nowhere. When you're when you're grounded, you realize um, you when you're going nowhere, and you're going nowhere. When you're going down, you are ingesting things that are not ingesting, digesting things to your conscious, to your subconscious mind, your emotional mind, things that um, are not aligned with your better future, whether it be music, um, what you what you read, what you study, etc., who you hang around, etc. Um, so so and when you're going up, you realize you're doing everything. When I say everything, you're doing everything it takes to align with that higher goal, whether it be what you read, what you study, what you wear, what you eat, what you uh, 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 who you call friend, who you call associate, who you call business partner, who you like. Everything must align or connect to that specific goal. It doesn't matter, and this is the funny part, and this is what will trip you out. It doesn't matter how small, it must connect to that nucleus. Um, yeah. So, but anyway, that's just what I learned um, from the ups and the downs of manifestation. With manifestation, growth, achieving your goals, and what you're gonna realize, last but not least, what I want to say here is a lot of the times, because I was made to believe, or I was tried to I was tried to be told that there's something wrong with me and all this other stuff, because I don't care for a lot of shit, and I and I want shit my way in the way I want it, and I won't settle to have anything else than what I want. Basically, I will not be distracted from what I want if it's not what I want. There's nothing wrong with you 90% of the time. It's that you're distracted. 90% of the time, there's nothing wrong with you. You're really just distracted. Let's say you want a certain goal by Friday, what you do from now till Friday tells you about how focused you were. It actually does not speak to anything else about you. And yeah, you can say you're disciplining your character and blah 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 blah. That's important. Um, but I've learned, because it falls under the concept all is mind. So above all, like I said at the title, above all is mind. Above all, it only describes where your mind is. It doesn't really describe that you're a bad person and there's something wrong with you and you're stupid and you're inadequate and all this, you're not good enough. No, you're just distracted. And sometimes you need to take time to reset, and that doesn't mean forever. But that's why they say taking reset or rest is important, so you can unplug your concentrate. You can unplug yourself so you can reconcentrate on your goal. And I realized the only difference between a poor person and a rich person is how come on now, is how concentrated they are on financial success. That's the only difference. There is. It's not that they have more resources. They're better. They're smarter. God made them a better human being. 90% of the time, that's false. It's only because they were focused on the riches for a longer period of time, and they found everything in their world that must connect and align with that specific financial goal. And when it comes to, and here's what inconsistency is. Here's what inconsistent, come on. Here's what inconsistent action is: mental distraction. It is inconsistent action. Inconsistent action is a form of mental distraction. I'll give you one practical example. Whenever you see a child wanting something, you ever see they ask for it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours? If they stop asking you today, they ask you tomorrow. If they stop asking you an hour ago, they'll ask you 3 hours from now. If they stop asking you, well, remember, have you ever told a child, if you ask me for that thing one more time, I'ma slap the shit out you, or I'ma do the, or there was some kind. Oh, come on now, Jesus Christ. They come on, man. You ever had a child? You ever tried to give a child a consequence for being highly focused on what they wanted? And what came to me was, you teach a child to be distracted whenever you keep telling them no about how to get what they want. God motherfucking damn. And that manifests as ungrounded. And of course, because you know why? And that doesn't mean give them everything they want. But one of the most powerful things when they can conceptualize this idea is finding a way to get what they want. So, in other words, teaching a child as young as possible how to create their reality. And Joe Dispenza has a beautiful example of this with his daughter. I'm not going to get into it here. Well, I'll spit it in the short version. He basically said this told his daughter, "I want you to sit and visualize your goal every single day of shopping, like what she wanted." She visualized her shopping, and somebody paying for it, right? And a couple weeks later, or days later, she went out shopping with her friend, and one of her dad's associates that impacted his life. She said, "Your dad did this great thing for me. Da 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 da. Pick whatever you want, and I'll buy it." And he bought to the exact dollar of what she said she wanted, because he taught her to visualize and conceptualize the goal in her mind over and over and over, and not care about how it's gonna happen. Just it happened. So yeah. Click the link below for your manifestation guide. Comment yes below for your manifestation guide, and click the link below for your manifestation course. Peace.